without further delay, I think it's been a very rich encounter here, and so I will want to introduce the next panel. This next panel is a panel of two, and the theme is Reinvigorating African Igbo Spirituality and Taboos in a Compromised Christian Society, Issues in Select Literary Texts. And we have Ngozi, Dora, Ulogu, and Evaristus, Ifeanacho, for this panel. So let me invite Ngozi. I believe you are taking the lead. Ngozi, please, if you're ready.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Ngozi Ulogu, and I'm transmitting from Nigeria, Oka, precisely. So, our topic, Reinvigorating African Igbo Spirituality and Taboos in a Compromised Christian Society, Issues in Select Literary Texts. Okay, before I start, I just want to express my gratitude for being part of this great conference. I want to thank Father Obuna, I just said, for this opportunity. He made it come true for me and for us. My partner, Evaristus, Ifeanacho, I don't know. I didn't check on him whether he's here or not. Okay, maybe I should go on him. Okay, we have the topic, the outline. We are just going. It's a literary talk discussion. But then, maybe somehow interdisciplinary, because Evaristus is from the Department of Religion and Human Relations, while I'm in the literary English language and literature. So both of us put together our ideas. So we looked at the outline, whereby we have our introduction, background, and so on. And I cannot share my slide from here. I hope I'm obliged to go on.
Send it. Tell her to send it.
Moderator.
Yes, there are two ways. Of course, you can always go on.
I cannot share my slide.
You can always go on, but otherwise, you can email your PowerPoint to Joseph, and then we would share it from here.
Now? Okay, I should have gone back before now.
No, I think you can just go on.
Okay, later on.
Yes, you can just go on. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have our background, our aims and objectives, methodology, discussion results, and then our final word, the conclusion. So first of all, the topic is based on Igbo, a tribe in Nigeria called Igbo. You look at the map, you see it at the base there. We say that Igbos are socially and culturally diverse group of people. They are very prominent ethnic group in Nigeria, southeastern Nigeria, whereby we have other ethnic groups. You have the Hausa, Yoruba, but Igbo, the Igbos and their culture, they kind of take a lead. So we're saying that, and they also have their spirituality. It's a kind of culture that is binding. They have that kind of communality, of communalism. They live a communal community life and so on and so forth, based on their religion also. part of it is the African traditional religion. And then the spirituality is based on all, those things, because they are connected to their God. Like they say that everyone, and every individual has a God, that is a small God called Chi, that is leading the person. So, just like we have our guardian angels and all that, so in Igbo, it's believed that every Igbo person is guided by other spirits. In fact, we have that aura, spiritual aura, around them, and it guides them, and this helps them to, have a kind of shared responsibility, and a set of code of conduct everyone is expected to conform to. So that conformity is very, very important. And when it goes against it, it causes a great problem, which we say that is now out of the the order, and then it gets to what is called the taboo that we are trying to talk about. That is when it goes outside the accepted norm, a behavior that's outside the accepted norm, it can easily be termed taboo. And how did it start? The Igbos are also one of the tribes that encountered the missionary incursion. Like somebody was talking about Ifeanacho the other day, yesterday. I felt that that was the core of Igbo Christianity, the version of the Christian missionaries into Omaro or something. So we take it as the basis, So the Igbos also encountered that the infiltration of Christianity to a great extent, even though Christianity brought some good, coming with their good aspects, like the stopped killing of twins. In fact, a lot of things, but most prominently, killing of twins and the way they were burying some people, some people would die maybe out of one kind of illness. They will not throw the person inside the Ajofia, that's called the great forest, that is bad forest, Ajofia. And it is some of this Ajofia that the missionaries, took over, because when they enter any of those communities, the people out of fear or whatever say, okay, let's just allow them to take this part of the land, this aspect of the forest. So the missionaries now come and clear that place, but how they either build their churches or they just take over it. So that was the kind of scenario there. But then, on the other side of it, the negative aspect is that the Christian doctrines, is a little bit liberal, more than the traditional thing the Igbos are known for. Like, the traditional worshippers are always so afraid of I would call it the effect of maybe the action their deities or something will always take. They will strike almost immediately. Let me go back to the example yesterday about Okonkwo, when the presenter said almost immediately Okonkwo violated the week of peace. The chief priest came immediately, and there was kind of reparation. So at that point, when the missionaries came in, those things, we are watered down, because some people have already have their one leg in the church and other in the tradition. So the whole thing, the traditional thing was infiltrated by the Christianity, and this gives vent to compromise, because at this point some people might, because they are now Christians or they have embraced the new religion, they do certain things in the name of either religion or because they feel that nothing will come to it. No instant revenge or no instant attack. So this was the situation, but then we want to situate this in the literary text. First of all, okay, because it's the literary text, so we're going to do literary a qualitative analysis. So our work is a qualitative analysis, and we are using two theories, based on two theories. Now, we have Anthony Waller's theory of cultural revitalization and what we call spiritual ecology. So we're using these two theories. Spiritual ecology that explores the relationship between spirituality and the environment. It said it describes the ways individuals and communities orient their thinking, their feelings, and act in response to the intersection of religion and spirituality with ecology, nature, and environmentalism. So these aspects, because at the end of the day, you are going to look at how individuals react or behave in the community where they live, and maybe the effect of their actions, whereby the Anthony Wallace enter relativism, but they are also, they go hand in hand in explaining what we are going to do. So let me get. So the cultural revitalization shows how culture responds to stress or disruption by consciously reorganizing themselves to achieve a more satisfying state. Is essential to the work of spiritual ecology. So the two of them have that relationship, or they're related. It's not only about preserving the past, but about recovering ecological memory, re-inhabiting sacred relationships, and then envisioning futures grounded in cultural integrity and planetary care. So based on these two frameworks, we're going to discuss this, aspect of the taboo. Like we're talking about taboos as unaffected behaviors by people that's supposed to have shared responsibilities. And then we're now saying that the literary text, literature or literary studies, have incidents, a kind of knowing that literature is a kind of, is a mimicry of life, of reality. As also said, is a second handle to reality, meaning that most of the things that we read in literature texts are actually, maybe a depiction of what has happened, even though it's not real. So it's just a shift from the real, but then representing the reality somehow. So we are using 4 texts, but by 3 prominent authors: Chimamanda Adichie's Taboos, and Ababeyele's Son. Then Chika Wiigwe's On Black Sister Street, and Abdulrazak Guna's Gravel Heart. This is based in Tanzania, while others are West Africa. I think Tanzania is in East Africa, but they're all African. So we're going to look at some key actors, and how they go out, out of the code, acceptable code of the Igbo culture or daily life, to show what there is this adage that we use. So we say that because of their abominable actions or acts, we say in Igbo, that's why adage we say that nkịta na-ata ọkpụkpụ arịrị, that is when somebody takes advantage of something that is supposed to take care of. So you see this trend or this perception running through all the characters. Most of these characters are supposed to be support system to the area where the system was. They took advantage. So they took advantage of the situation. That is going outside the realm of support and norm, acceptable norm. For example,
5 minutes to go.
Okay, and half of the youngest son, you see Eugene, who is the father of the house, excessively abusing the household, abused the mother, the wife, made her lose pregnancies just because he feels that they are not conforming to his Catholic doctrine. So you see it as a compromised Christianity. Because he's a father, even though he wants his family to follow up, but that is not why, finally we see him being excessively abusive just to protect what he feels that he believes in. And even to the extent of even killing his own daughter by, punishing her with hot water, just like that. A whole lot of it. And then we now come down to couple with this half of the eldest son. You see the Reverend Fathers that are in charge of, if it's here now in Nigeria, talk of IDP, but some refugee children who are in the camp out of Nigerian Biafran war, supposed to take care of them by giving them food procured by another person. But at the end of the day, the Kainene, who is the woman in charge of that camp, later noticed that Reverend Fathers also took advantage of the children when she noticed that one of them was already pregnant. So, and now, by the time she tries to find out, based on inquiries, find out that Urema was not even the only person. So there's that breach of trust and betrayal of integrity by the priest. And you go down to Onigwe's on Black Sister Street. The father, or even though it was at the end towards the end that we now find out that he's a fucked up father to Amma, how Brother Stereo, who is professing to be a pastor and all that, took advantage of the child after he threw a birthday bash for her. And then starting from that night, he started to rape her for the next 5 years. Every day. So, and the girl had to live with that, in spite of the fact that she tried to let the mother know about it, but we also saw the complacency of the mothers. Because if you go back to Okuva, you find that even Eugene's wife, Beatrice, was also a little bit complacent, in her duties, which all these are not part of. All these are outside the expected rule of parenting. So, and then the last text is Guna's gravel hearts. This is a situation whereby a woman chooses to give up herself to another man so that she can save her own brother instead of against the family, the marriage, and so on and so forth. But I think the big deal there is how the other person, that is, if I should call them by their names, Hakim, you know, how he insisted on having the woman, a married woman, using it as a hostage, using his brother as a hostage or something, that she has to accept his offer or even threat that he must sleep with him. In fact, not just sleep with him, but he has to possess her for him to release his brother and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, the woman accepted, and then he broke the husband's heart and broke almost the family, the marriage, everything got shattered. So you find out that these things were happening, they're all part of, should we say, effect of colonialism, because Hakim acted here is a government official. And you can see the level of exploitation of those that inherited colonial legacies or something on other people. So at the end of the day, we are saying that the kind of Christianity has infiltrated African morality, perpetuating behaviors that compromise the spiritual aura of the people. And the Igbo cultural values are on the way to tradition, and we have to be rescued again to uphold the taboos, which are a way of protecting the norms and values of everyday living among the people. I think we said that the application of spiritual ecology encourages individuals and communities to develop a sense of respect and conformity to set rules for a harmonious and peaceful Igbo society that is consciously reorganizing itself for a more satisfying state. So I think this is what we actually are set to do, to investigate. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation. Normally we would take reactions after the talk, but I would like to throw it to you. Since it looks like a two-part presentation, do you want Ifeanacho to go ahead and speak and we take all the questions together? Sorry, you are muted.
This I said, if he's here, he will want to say, let me check.
Yes, he's here. He's here.
I'm good.
Okay. Now, so,
okay, so Ifeanacho, please, we welcome you to make your presentation, and at the end of 20 minutes, we would take reactions.
Do I go on?
Yes, please, you can go ahead.
Well, it's a combined presentation she has already done, because the part that I was concerned with is the part of the cultural, more of the cultural aspect, because it took the part of the literary aspect that is concerned with the literature and so on. But I was more of concerned with the discussion on spiritual ecology. Discussion on the spiritual ecology and the discussion concerning taboo. Now, spiritual ecology, we know already, when we talk of ecology, it is all concerned with our environment. And it is environment, when we go down to the biological aspect where it originated, then gradually we begin to see that it has to do with all aspects of our living in various ways, which means it can therefore be extended to show a kind of interconnectedness of different components of a system with their environment and with each other. And in that context, one can also talk of something like a political ecology, linguistic ecology, and the spiritual ecology as we are concerned in this own aspect. And when we delve into spiritual ecology, we begin to see that it is a two-way traffic that goes when we begin to consider the spiritual, first of all, and we join the ecology to it. The spiritual has to do with a movement between the divine and the mortar. It is a way of trying to interpret and to carry across to the gods the things given by men, then to men things that come from God. So these two movements brings us into the realm of spirituality. It is not a one-way traffic. Man aspiring towards God, getting an intermediary that brings from God back to man. Then, at a point, if we yoke them together now, beginning to consider the spiritual aspect and the ecology itself, we go into the concept of spiritual ecology. And in this concept of spiritual ecology, we see the spiritual ecology as a window through which we can appreciate the spirituality of the human community, the spirituality of the human environment as a whole. And this has to be aided by our thinking, our religious thinking, because it is our religious thinking, especially today, that we are celebrating the feast of Saint Francis of Assisi. It comes in properly, this respect for environment and the spiritual ecology that is involved in our movement, plurality of religions, where it is properly located. Therefore, spiritual environment, as we know, refers to these ways that individuals and communities orient their thinking properly and feeling and acting in response to their religions and in response to the spiritualities with the ecology and with nature. Now, the point we are trying to make here is trying to see how some of these realities, spiritual realities that we have in the Igbo context, has been somehow compromised by the advent of Christianity in one way or another, and on the other hand with colonialism. And that brings us to the issue of the cultural revitalization. And this cultural revitalization that refers to a kind of process through which communities try to, in one way or another, to reclaim their traditional cultural practices, their languages, their knowledge system, and their spiritual values that in one way or another must have been either marginalized or suppressed or even eroded, as the case may be, as it happened when a culture begins to have a contact with colonialism or globalization, or even in a cross-cultural contact. This kind of erosion can exist. So this move to draw back, to reclaim these values that has been in one way or another compromised, because naturally in the African setup and in the Igbo setup in particular, there are a series of taboos. And these taboos go into various aspects of life, because there are things that are forbidden. They are forbidden in terms of, if you have the sexual taboos, for instance, it prohibits for the incest and adultery and sex during menstruation and things like that, during ritual periods. These are taboos in the Igbo cultural setup. Then during mourning period, when one is bereaved, there is also a taboo that goes there towards the widow. Though in some contexts it's not as harsh to the men as it is to the women. So there is in one way kind of soft pedaling in that aspect, being a masculine society, however. Then we have also the spiritual taboo and the religious one, like respect for the sacred geography we have in our own areas, like the Ulogu and the sacred forest, and things like that. These are religious taboos that when one gets involved, when one that is not initiated begins to violate these environments, then it is regarded as a taboo, and a purification is needed in order to reclaim the sanity of such an environment. There is also the dietary taboo and so on, the ecological taboo, when one begins to have a kind of disrespect for a particular, either for a forest or a sacred river in a particular area. Then these things, when they are eroded, they are regarded as Nswana, as the case may be, or Imeruana, as the case may also be. Then there are social and behavioral taboos. When one is expected to respect his elders, you don't need to be told not to talk harshly to your parents or to your elderly ones. It is a taboo if one begins to behave in that context, or even to curse another person in a linguistic manner. In that context, we talk of linguistic taboos. It is when we yoke all these taboos together, then we bring them down to our own cultural context in order to place them side by side with the advent of Christianity, to see how, as the arrival of Christianity, notwithstanding the goodies that came with it, has mellowed down some of these taboos that, in one way or another, some people are beginning to either downplay the seriousness of these taboos or even neglect them entirely. And as it happens in the context of the same imperialism, if a country, for instance, is in favor of same-sex marriage, begins to impose it on another, it is already a taboo. If it is good for you, let it be good for you. But in a particular context, like in the Igbo context, such a thing is a taboo, and it is not done. So, when we bring all these things together, seeing what has been compromised, seeing what was there already, seeing the need to respect, to have a kind of spiritual ecology where there is this respect for environment and respect for one's religious belief, then putting all the literatures together and seeing the examples given there, how in one way or another, all these taboos must have been taking place in different contexts and with different characters in these literatures, it becomes pertinent for us to re-emphasize that taboos in Igbo culture function as a comprehensive moral code that regulates every aspect of life, and in such a way they reflect a holistic worldview where the physical and the spiritual realms are interconnected. However, these taboos are not static. The arrival, it was here that the arrival of the Christianity and Western education began in one way or another to transform and to diminish the weight of these traditional taboos. So the call of this paper, therefore, is an attempt to re-emphasize the necessity of bringing the force again, the force that goes with these taboos, even in our own temperature of Christianity as we have it now. So re-emphasizing that these things that have been mellowed down through the coming of Christianity, colonialism, what we have to do now is an attempt to see how we can re-emphasize the importance of these elements in our culture. And when that is done, then I think that the compromised Christian society will begin a cultural preservation of those good elements that exist in our culture and re-emphasize them instead of mellowing them down. So that's our attempt in this work. We try as much as possible to reclaim what has been lost. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ifeanacho and Ngozi, for this wonderful presentation. Our first question is from okay, I'll read it, please. Hi, Ngozi.
No.
Okay. Sorry. Let me see. I think I have a question for Evaristus. Okay, that's where I should go. So, Gerard, please.
Okay,
So I have actually, before Evaristus, I have a question. I already wrote before I have a question from Ngozi. So both already.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to thank Ngozi and also Evaristus for the wonderful presentation. So beginning with Ngozi, actually my question is, I'm a little bit, well, maybe not confused, but not so clear about the problem you presented in terms of, when you were giving the presentation from these literary authors, you talked about, the problems with them, and then you gave example of the one where you talked about the problem of the man who was excessively abusive. Now, my question is, regarding with issue about, is the problem actually, you guys both actually now presented, is problem of Christianity, or is it the problem of liberal colonial culture? Because I was a little bit confused in the sense of, is this problem that actually both is presented, you presented, is that problem of Christianity as it takes? Or is it problem that came with other things that followed Christianity? Because I was wondering whether Christianity would actually give permission for this kind of thing to happen. I understand the part about compromised Christianity, but I also want to really understand better what compromised Christianity in this sense actually is saying. So that's one question I wanted to get a clarification. And then the other is this question about, is colonialism and Christianity the same? If they are, okay, why? If they are not, what is the separation between these two things? Because here also we find a problem.
Okay, thank you, Gerard. Ngozi, do you want to go first?
She's muted.
You can unmute yourself and speak.
Okay. Yes. Okay, fine. Okay.
Yeah, let me go on.
Okay. Can you see?
Is that right?
So thank you, Father Gerard. I understand very well the confusion. There is a clear distinction between colonialism and Christianity. Each of them are, we can say that they are miles apart, because one was more of a political adventure, a kind of imperialism, but one was coming for evangelization. Then in the process of the evangelization, Christianity remains as a pure, has its doctrine, pure and uncontaminated. But the problem that would have arisen may be in the process of the transmission of the doctrine of Christianity, the elements, the human elements that were used in the transmission of these pure doctrines. Which means in the process of this transmission, one would have erred in one way or another. So these are the areas we are referring to. Christianity stands there very pure in its content. What the problem that arises then is this area of its transmission. Then, I don't know if I remember the second aspect of the question.
So the other question I was asking is, given the literary views Ngozi presented, these different authors, and I was wondering whether these problems are actual problems of Christianity, as these authors, that we are meant to present. Are they the problem? For example, she talked about the abusive husband and different literary examples she gave in all these authors.
Okay, let me come in.
Okay.
Shall I go on? Okay, Gerald, I salute you. It's good seeing you. Okay. So, yes, based on, if you look at the text narrative, you find out that the man in the text, Eugene, is he has multiple identities, but then the one that comes up more is that of hypocrisy. He presents himself a philanthropist, a devout Catholic. In fact, every person knows him as a very good person outside, especially in the church. Even the parish priest, according to the text, uses him as an example, as a model of Jesus Christ. And he's also what is this food that I use? An oblet. So he receives Holy Communion first. He helps Father during Lent to administer ashes. You know, his religious manifestation or outwardness presents him as a real Christian. But then, right inside the house, he manifests all this because he is what we call a fanatic, a religious fanatic. Now, because of that thing, if you also study, you find that the problem also is a little bit of psychoanalytical because of his childhood experience when he lived with a priest, a white missionary priest, and how firm the missionaries were. Because at the point he said he failed the catechism or something, and he was he had a wound or something like that. So he's now bringing all those things back to the house and treating his children like that. Even from the first line of Hibiscus shows where Eugene, through the missile at Jaja, who is his son, for refusing to go to communion. So you can see that kind of thing. At the point, he's always like, you people are walking into sin. It's always sin. Why do you allow them to rule you and so on and so forth? So his behavior is based on the fact that he is inclined to the church, to that Christianity. And then to the other side of it, you see that he has a hidden father, but he disowned him because he tried to convert the father, but the father remained a heathen up to the time he died. And because of that, he disowned his father. Despite the fact that he's a very rich man, he wasn't giving, in fact, he abandoned his father, that he's no longer his father because he refused. And then the irony of it is that at the time his father died, he now wants to give his father a Christian burial, if not for the sister that insisted no. If you could treat a father like this when he was alive, is it now that he said that you come and give him a Christian burial? So what we are trying to say is that in this case, Christianity plays a significant influence on in that family and the psyche of Eugene, because all he's doing is that he's trying to be like the missionary, whereas putting aside the fact that he has an African blood or something like that. So, and even the priest is a little bit also compromised. Father Benedict, who is the parish priest, knows about the ordeals of Eugene's family, how he maltreats them, but he never, tells Eugene the truth, the gospel truth about care and compassion for the family. Maybe because Eugene is a benefactor, maybe he doesn't want to lose that. Like when at the point the daughter was in the hospital because of what Eugene did to him, he never even cautioned Eugene. Even the time he caused his wife to miscarry, he never cautions him. So you can see that is that Christianity that is at the bottom of whatever, his mind or thinking pattern or consciousness or unconsciousness, is that is guiding him and all that and all that. So I don't know if I'm able to explain.
Yeah, so without pushing this out, because I know other people will want to ask the question, why I raise this issue is simply because in this explanation I was thinking whether is the problem Christianity or even Igbo traditional religion. The reason why I asked that question is simply because if we think about Igbo traditional religion, where I also come from, there is also this orientation towards Ngozi, towards to show. So I was wondering whether Eugene is not also, what is behind what he was doing wasn't this issue of let's show people how holy we are. So Christianity is what now becomes a way to do that. But the problem actually fundamentally comes from even Igbo traditional religion. That was why I was raising this question anyway. But thank you so much for the answer.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. So we have a hand up here in the house. Please, Momayi, take the microphone.
Thank you very much for both your presentations. My question goes to Ngozi directly. Is about when you mentioned Tanzania and the novel from Tanzania, I was so excited because I'm from East Africa. But you didn't talk much about that. So, and how is it connected to Nigeria?
And what like you rightly said, from East Africa. Fine, anyway, because it's a literary narrative anyway. We are only trying to look at the issues, just to know that it's general. Some of those things are general. Not that, because Africa is Africa anyway, so, but then those issues and the characters, we are just trying to show that even we learn some of them from characters, and to give that wider view, I had to get at least know that because it's Africa first, Igbo is in Africa, so we're talking about Africa, and that these things are spread across. I find that it's only that one, at least we have 3/4. So I just use that to validate the fact that some of all these things, even though they're Africa, maybe you might not even, be so sure that if you check Tanzania, you will not find Igbo people around that place.
I might be Igbo myself. What was the title of the novel?
You have a wider view. Sorry?
What was the title of that
novel? Bravo Hearts by Abdul Razak Guna.
Okay, thank you.
Bravo Hearts.
Thank you very much. I have another hand up. Simon Mary, please come to the microphone.
Thank you very much. I think you guys were excellent. Any work on literature, I just think is amazing. It really can be explored. Unfortunately, that I don't have a question for you, Ngozi. I have for David. David, I love how you talked about taboos. Just studying African indigenous religions for myself in my own work, I've realized that taboos, sometimes if you study taboos very well, this is how Africans explored the scientific issues, sociological issues. For example, when they don't eat a particular animal or whatever, it's because they have maybe a genetic problem that runs in that particular group, that they will not eat that thing, then they will tie it around taboos. And even like, for example, they'll say don't bathe in a particular stream at a particular time. It's a way of preserving the purity of the water so that they can drink it and all that. So that said, I wanted to know what your research is doing, because there are certain times taboos are not supposed to be static, as you rightly said, but you didn't explain more. Sometimes people get fixated that this is how our ancestors did it and we must continue to do it, when we now have other ways to addressing the problem by which the taboo was formulated or framed around. So if we have a way of preserving purity of water now to drink, we can still go and shower in that river now without incurring the taboo. So what's your take on that? Where does your research lead you to on that?
That was Evaristus.
Oh, was it? Oh, who presented?
Evaristus.
Oh, sorry, Evaristus. Sorry, that's for you.
Yeah, you were calling me David, but I'm Evaristus.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand the presentation, what you said about actually I said that the taboo is not static. Is not static at all. Because you can remember in our own cultural context, for instance, if at a point, if small children eat eggs, they were regarded as if
Tips.
Rogues.
they are regarded as if they are too
Greedy.
It's not meant for them. That eggs are meant for the elderly people. It is only with the passage of time, it became evident that it is even the children that need eggs. It was also a way of preserving the meaty part for the elderly people in their own cultural setup. So with the passage of time, the loopholes in these taboos, when they become clearer, then it is upgraded, so to say. It is overtaken, and another form will come out. Just as you rightly said, if one is told not to do this during this particular hour of the day, one is told not to urinate at this sacred geography because it is used, when you urinate there, the masquerades will come at night and beat you. You know, one goes around with that fear that if you urinate here, the masquerade will come at night. But no masquerade comes. With the passage of time, one begins to see that these were taboos that were presented in order to rescue these areas. You don't have to mess them up. Not that actually something will happen eventually, but it was. So with the passage of time, it became evident that some of them actually were overtaken, and the new ones came in. So your presentation is quite in order. It's not static.
Thank you very much, Evaristus. And I will resist the temptation of asking the question about eating gizzard. But let us see if there are more questions in the house. I don't see any. Okay, Joseph, you have a question.
Hello, Evaristus. This is Joseph. So, in response to Simon's question, you re-emphasize that taboos are not aesthetic, and yet your paper revolves around recovering taboos. Which taboos are you recovering? Which has been overtaken by time? And then again, you just as Gerard rightly pointed out, your presentations appear to lay the blame on. No, I said like just as Gerard pointed out, your presentations, your own presentation and that of Ngozi appear to lay the blame on Christianity. And then you are saying that you want to recover these taboos. And then some of these taboos are overtaken. So which of them are overtaken, which are static? What is the measure of your recovery? That's just my question. Thank you.
Good. That's a nice question. Very nice one indeed. So, what we are presenting actually is a way of trying to present the African spirituality and trying to see some of these taboos that came around and how they were mellowed down in the context of Christianity. Now, in some of these taboos, some of them are silent, like in the case of we don't talk of a dietary taboo because those ones have been overtaken. We can only be talking of taboos that concern the ones of religion, the sacred shrines, which are also there in our sacred liturgy. These ones could be upgraded because they are already there. The sacred liturgy presents the idea of sacred environment, just as the Igbo traditional setup has the idea of the sacred environment. So, if we take the idea of the sacred geography in the Igbo traditional setup, and it helps us to re-emphasize the issue of the sacred geography in the Christian liturgy and in the Christian environment. Then we have also other social taboos, which we re-emphasize with the coming of Christ. If you go around as it is happening now, there is this emphasis, for instance, there is a mellowing down in our society, especially with the Western culture, of trying to impose impose some sexual misbehavior on others. What we are trying to do, the Igbo cultural context maintains this sexual taboo, that this should not be done in this aspect. So we have to re-emphasize it as a part of our life as the Igbos, that this kind of marriage or this kind of staying together male-male is not in our, is a taboo in our culture. So we have to reclaim it and we have to re-emphasize it. Then, the issue of taboo in terms of linguistic taboo, as it happens in some areas, when one is not allowed to talk harshly. Don't insult your elders. Don't insult your parents. These are also in the Christian culture. But the re-emphasis on it helps us again in our own culture to re-emphasize it in the Igbo traditional setup and give the emphasis even with the Christian teaching. So there are some that are already overtaken, but there are some that need to be re-emphasized, to be reclaimed, especially in the context of the sexual taboos and the sexual misbehavior, as the case may be.
Thank you very much, Evaristus, and thank you, Mary. I think this has been a very wonderful panel. Let us say thank you with a round of applause. Thank you, and indeed, there are times when the problem are Christians, particular Christians, and not Christianity. So with